School of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC 003 Business Environment for MBA program. Presenting Block 4 International Business Environment, Unit-12 Foreign Trade, Part 2. Intra-industry trade among similar economies. According to the theory of comparative advantage, a country can produce goods in which it specializes to a certain degree and then trade them off globally. However, a significant proportion of trade is intra-industry trade, that is, trading of goods within the same industry among fairly similar economies like US, Japan, China, Mexico, and the European Union. But why do similar economies engage in intra-industry trade? Well, there are three reasons for it. Number 1. Gains from specialization and learning. Intra-industry trade between similar economies produces economic gains as it allows both the firms and the workers to learn and innovate on particular products and often on some very particular parts of the value chain, that is, production of goods in different stages. For example, an Apple MacBook may be designed and engineered in the US, parts might be supplied from Korea, assembled in China, and advertised and marketed by Japan. A large part of contribution in this splitting up of the value chain goes to newer upgradations in communication technology, information sharing services, and transportation services. Instead of production of an entire product in a single large factory, all the mentioned steps can be done operating in different places and different economies, thereby involving greater involvement of learning, innovation, and gathering of skills. Number 2. Economies of scale, competition, and variety. The concept of economies of scale means that as the scale of production of an output increases, the average cost of production declines. Intra-industry trade among fairly high-income economies involve a lot of competition among products and consumer choices globally if they go for trading internationally. Had there been no trade and only one or two large plants were supplying products within a country, the consumers would have been left with little option to choose their products from. Also, little or no level of competition would have existed among the manufacturers globally. Dynamic comparative advantage. In an intra-industry trade, the comparative advantage is dynamic in the sense that the level of labor productivity does not only depend on climate, geography, education, or acquiring of new skill sets. It instead depends on how a firm engages its workers in specific and specialized learning about different products or product parts, which has been made possible with the splitting up of the value chain. Newer ways of acquiring unique set of skills are evolving with time, which keeps on changing the line of comparative advantage for the economies. Types of barriers to foreign trade. The most common barriers to foreign trade are: Number 1, tariffs. Number 2, quotas. And number 3 is non-tariff barriers. Let's talk about tariffs. Tariffs are taxes imposed by governments on the imported goods. Quotas, on the other hand, are trade restrictions imposed on the quantitative number of goods that can be imported or exported during a particular period. The effects of both tariffs and quotas are same. That is, Both aim at lowering of imports and protecting the domestic producers from the foreign competition. A tariff raises the price of the imported good in the tariff-imposing country, which in turn reduces the demand for and eventually the supply of the good in the tariff-imposing country. Quotas, on the other hand, put restrictions on the amount of goods to be supplied to the quota-imposing country, which in turn raises the price of the product within the quota-imposing country and thereby reducing its demand among the consumers of that country. Non-tariff barriers include regulations imposed on product content or quality, product standards, packaging and shipping regulations, harbor and airport permits, heavy customs procedures, etc. Measures to reduce barriers to foreign trade. Free trade refers to elimination of all barriers to foreign trade. Several numbers of organizations and trade agreements are working out to ease the barriers to trade, thereby promoting more of trade and mutual economic gains from it. Some of the important initiatives taken to remove those barriers are: Number 1. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, that is, GATT. Post the Great Depression and World War II, foreign trade faced stringent cross-border restrictions. To eliminate those, 23 nations came forward and united in 1947 to sign the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, that is, GATT. GATT encouraged free trade through proper regulation and reduction in tariffs, and also provided a forum for resolving trade-related disputes among its signatories. Number 2. World Trade Organization, that is WTO, and Regional Trading Agreements, that is RTAs. Founded in 1995 by the members of GATT, located in Geneva, Switzerland, and with approximately 159 member countries at present, World Trade Organization encourages global trade through lowering of trade barriers, introducing multilateral trading systems through regional trading agreements, that is RTAs, enforcement of foreign trade rules, and providing a forum for resolving trade disputes. It is also empowered to monitor a country's trade policy and can guide the guilty members in eliminating all disputed trade restrictions imposed, if any. Non-discrimination is the core principle of WTO, and its members have committed not to favor any one trading partner over others. An exception to these is the regional trade agreements, which are discriminatory by nature in the sense that only its member signatories can enjoy more favorable market access conditions. The RTAs aim at facilitating trade between its signatories but do not raise trade barriers with the other trading countries. WTO member countries can enter into the RTAs under specific conditions which will cover: Number 1. Formation and operations of customs unions and free trade areas covering trade in goods. Number 2. Regional or global arrangements for trade in goods between developing member countries. And Number 3. Agreements covering trade in services. In general, RTAs must cover all trade in goods and services and help in promoting more of free trade among the countries under RTA. As of June 2016, all WTO member countries now have an RTA in force. Next initiative is the World Bank and the IMF. The primary determinant in helping the poorer nations or the less developing economies to involve as active members in the global trading system is by providing financial assistance. This has been a major shared goal of two international organizations. These are the International Monetary Fund, that is IMF, and the World Bank. The IMF lends financial assistance to the needy economies with conditions imposed which might include some of the tender financial or economic reforms. The World Bank, on the other hand, provides economic assistance to the poor and the least developing economies so as to ameliorate the lives of the people through community support programs which are mainly designed to ensure the provision of better health, education, nutrition, infrastructure, and other social services. And the last is trading blocks. In some parts of the world, a group of countries have integrated to allow free flow of commodities and services among their mutual boundaries. Such groups of countries are known as trading blocks. The North American Free Trade Association, that is NAFTA, which is an agreement signed for mutual flow of trade among the US, Mexico, and Canada, and the European Union, that is EU, signed by 27 countries of Europe to open their borders for free trade, are the two most powerful trading blocs at present. India's foreign trade, recent trends. India's gross domestic product, that is GDP, reached to 2.88 trillion US dollars, that is rupees 203.39 trillion in 2019-20 through tremendous acceleration in the twin channels of trade and capital flows into the country over the last 2 decades. India generated a trade surplus of 13.59 billion US dollars between April and November 2020, with exports of both goods and services amounting to 304.25 billion US dollars and imports totaling to 290.66 billion US dollars as per the data from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The Government of India is looking forward to grow exports, thereby creating a pool of more jobs for the educated and talented youth as well as for the semi and unskilled workers of India. As per sources of RBI, its foreign exchange reserves now stand at 583.13 billion US dollars, that is rupees 42.75 trillion as of December 2020. India's external sector during 2020-21 witnessed a series of MOUs, that is Memorandum of Understanding, signed for number 1. Strengthening the cross-border cooperation in the electricity sector with the United States. Number 2. Strengthening the cross-border cooperation in the area of securities with Luxembourg. Number 3. Technology cooperation in the road infrastructure sector with the Republic of Austria. Number 4. Cooperation in the fields of health and medicine with Cambodia, valid for a period of 5 years. Number 5. Making education materials accessible to children with hearing disabilities in cooperation with NCERT. And number 6. Strengthening the bilateral trade between India and Mexico through cooperation in the sectors like pharmaceuticals, medical equipments, healthcare, agro products, fisheries, food processing, and aerospace. India's foreign trade is sooner going to witness a new foreign trade policy, that is 2021-26, that is from 2021 to 2026, with major focus on outlining policies and steps to accelerate domestic production and exports. It has emerged as one of the most sought-after destination for foreign investments due to its trade policies, government reforms, and inherent economic strengths, alongside recent technological and infrastructural developments across the country. It is expected to raise its exports of both goods and services to Australia by $15 billion in 2025 and $35 billion by 2035. Now let's summarize the unit. Foreign trade allows countries to engage in buying and selling of goods across their geographical boundaries and can ensure productivity efficiency of the trading economies at the same time. Despite bearing a few disadvantages like exposure to national security threats, depletion of domestic natural resource base, creation of highly competitive forums for the newer startups to flourish, and adverse effects on the domestic demand on account of any unfavorable global scenario, foreign trade ensures that a country attains economies of scale, can specialize in production of goods and services given its natural resource base, regulates the prices and quality of the commodities traded globally, facilitates the transfer of technologies among the trading countries, and helps in creation of employment opportunities globally. A country cannot benefit from trade if it has absolute advantage in the production of all goods and services, as it eliminates the scope of specializing in the production of goods and services as well as trading with other countries. It can benefit from trade only if it has a comparative advantage in the production of goods and services, which accelerates the productive efficiency of that country. However, trading globally also involves some barriers in the form of tariff and non-tariff measures that are being imposed by the government and which may have an impact on the prices, quality, and quantity of the goods traded. To curb those barriers, several international organizations such as the World Bank, the IMF, GATT, WTO, and agreement bodies such as the RTAs and the trading blocs have come into being, which work towards encouragement of free trade, reduction as well as regulation of the tariff barriers, solving of trade disputes among the global trading partners, and ensuring improvement in living standards and employment rates worldwide. You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code MMPC 002 Human Resource Management. Course Coordinator Professor Nayantara Padhi from School of Management Studies IGNOU. Voiceover by Harpreet Kaur. Edited by Jagbandhu Jana. Program assisted by Tarannum Jahan. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.